of the suffrage movement. Even though we are not in a live theater space, where this show belongs, we are experiencing an evening of one acts, part one, together. Tonight's plays include Celebration Bread by Julie Zaffarano and Mrs. Satan and the Nasty Woman by Alice Eve Cohen. The runtime is 75 minutes with a 5-minute pause between pieces, during which a video will be played. Our evening of one acts has been split into 2 parts, taking place over 2 evenings instead of 1. Part 2 is scheduled for next Thursday, September 17th at 8 p.m. and will include Lounge by Megan Schumacher and Walk the Line by Ang Bay. This decision was made in service of our mission to support Philadelphia women femme artists through the process of developing of new works. Great art takes time, and we appreciate your flexibility, especially as we all navigate this Zoom theater world. Any ticket purchased for tonight or next Thursday is valid for both performance dates. A link for September 17th will automatically be sent to all of you. We ask that if you enjoy this experience tonight, please give a donation. The link to donate will be posted in the chat. We pride ourselves in compensating our artists. We thank our many donors who have made this show possible. We also want to extend our deepest thanks to the Philadelphia Cultural Fund. Our 2020 Art and Culture grantee has allowed us to further our creative work for the good of our community and for all Philadelphians. As we work to amplify untold voices, we would like to recognize that we are on Lenni Lenape land. The Lenape people were the native inhabitants of Delaware, New Jersey, Eastern PA, and Southern New York. The history of our indigenous people is one that we wish to honor, respect, and protect. Please note, your video and audio will remain off for the duration of tonight's staged reading, but will be turned on for an applause at curtain call. At the end of the reading, we invite you to stay with us for a talk back with our artists. During this time, we will host a Q&A with you. Please share your questions and comments by raising your hand or typing them into the chat box for our artists to respond. Should you think of a question during the show, you may add it to the Q&A chat at any time. Don't worry, this will not cause an interruption, as the Q&A chat will not be visible until after the show. Tonight's performance is directed by Nicole Miller-Marks and stage managed by Zach Apony. Celebration Bread is performed by Sharese Salters and Michelle Pauls. Mrs. Satan and the Nasty Woman is performed by Kelly McCon and Michelle Pauls. For the full festival guide, please see the chat. Thank you all for joining us tonight to amplify untold voices. Enjoy the show.
Thank you, Ginger. Celebration Bread by Julie Zaffarano. August 18th, 2020, a family kitchen. Felicia and Mag are breaking bread. Her daughter, Mag, is texting furiously.
Hand me the sugar. Mag? Granulated sugar?
Yeah.
This is confectionery sugar.
What's the difference? Never mind, I don't want to know.
You used to love baking with me.
When I was like 9.
You like to make sugar cookies and decorating them with cute little faces, smiley ones, frowny ones, and 1 or 2 surprised ones, red hots for their mouths, and M&Ms for their eyes.
Mom.
I practically had to hose you down. How could anyone get that much dough in their hair? Don't you remember?
I liked wearing Grandma's apron.
It's in the drawer. Do you want to?
I was like 9.
You're so old and decrepit now. Would you hand me the flower? Mag, the flower? Margaret. This is a special recipe.
It's bread. You can buy it at the store.
Not this bread. Wait until we get our aggressions out and eating it. Take that, you naughty loaf. You could warm the butter and milk.
Dad got you that bread machine thing. Why don't you use that?
It's not the same.
Yeah, it's better, faster.
Faster isn't always better.
Where's the butter?
You still need your mommy. What did you do at college without me?
It was tough, but I managed not to starve or set myself on fire.
120 degrees. The mail came this morning. I think there was something for you.
120?
Yes. Don't you? It might be important.
I'll be careful.
The mail, I mean,
Where did you get this recipe?
from Graham. I thought it would be fun to make before you go away again.
Are you having an empty nester crisis?
Oh, maybe a little. Can you measure a cup of nuts? You got home yesterday and now you're leaving again in 2 weeks.
I couldn't come home without quarantining for 2 weeks.
I know, but we need to discuss a few things before you leave.
Oh my God, Mom. This isn't going to be some kind of sex talk, is it? There are boundaries. Boundaries.
I always thought that we could share everything.
Overshare, you mean?
I want to talk about, yeast.
Oh God. Nobody's mom talks about.
Be the yeast.
Oh. Yeah. Here.
Thank you. You thought I was going to talk about, that's more than a cup of nuts.
I like nuts.
It's important to get the exact measurements when you're baking because
Baking
is
is
awesome.
science. Oh my God, Mom. I know. Baking is a science. Wash your makeup off at night. Don't get into a stranger's car, even if they have a cute puppy. Remember the safe word.
I think you might need more flour. Does it feel sticky at the bottom?
A little.
Nobody likes a sticky bottom.
You're so weird.
Felicia wiggles 2 utensils against her head like antenna.
I am not weird. You're weird.
Oh God, Mom, stop.
Always used to make you laugh.
When I was like 2.
Do you want me to bring your mail in here?
Will you stop it with the mail?
Won't take but a second.
I see rally calendar is full. Rally, postcard party, start petition.
Doing what I can. Oh, it's a shame we have to quarantine.
Would you rather I stayed at school?
Of course not. It would have been nice to stay together.
My entire life has been watching you champion one cause and then another. You drag me to every possible rally and protest, in the rain, the snow, the blazing heat, stuck a sign in my hands without even asking what my opinion was. You used me.
I was trying to create a better future for you.
I missed parties and movies, and
Parties.
when I was 9, you told me we were going to DC, just the 2 of us. I thought we would make dog tags at the Air and Space, explore the Spy Museum, see James Bond's car. And what did we do? Stand around in a huge crowd holding right to know signs.
It was to protect you from being poisoned.
We never go on real family vacations because you use up all your time for your causes.
We have quality time.
Not the beach, Disney, Grand Canyon. That's what normal people do.
We are normal. We're not average.
Listen to yourself. Your political elitism.
You went to the beach every summer until last year.
With Graham and Dad.
I only get 10 days vacation.
You won't notice when I'm gone. You'll have more time for your rallies, your political buddies, and your card writing parties. No wonder you chose to adopt me. Less maternity leave than having a baby.
I've been trying to make a better world for you.
By neglecting our world at home,
You're saying you were neglected?
you missed most of my school concerts, never chaperone class
You
trips.
know I wanted to.
You chose.
Your father and I chose to work hard at jobs that some days we can barely stand to give you the things that we never had.
Are you even listening to me?
You don't want to be listened to. You didn't even register to vote.
You don't know that.
I do.
Really?
It's public information. Right on the voter registration site.
You looked me up on a voter registration site?
Oh, a critical election and you can't be bothered. I don't understand you. The first time I could vote, it was thrilling. My friends and I made Build a Bridge to Tomorrow t-shirts and volunteered for the Dukakis campaign.
T-shirts and answering phones, really putting yourself out there.
At least I did something. Did you even bother to complete the postcards I sent you?
You said my job was to go to school.
About that. Your grades came yesterday.
The mysterious mail you kept wanting to give me,
Don't you want to see them?
got an email 3 days ago.
Oh. So,
So,
you know,
I know.
your grades. How did you do?
Okay. I think this dough is ready to knead.
Break it in half and we can each work a piece. You had a 4.0 going into the summer semester,
Freshman classes are easy.
but C's in both your summer classes?
It's a federal offense to open someone's mail.
I pay your tuition,
Scholarship.
half your tuition.
You violated my privacy.
You've always had grades to be proud of. I was going to put them up on the refrigerator.
How would you like me opening your mail?
Go ahead. Well,
What?
don't you have something to say?
Stay out of my mail.
Stop avoiding.
I'm not.
What happened?
The world happened, Mom. The world turned upside down and crashed and burned.
You should have made you come home in March.
I had things to do.
You let school suffer to do things.
Coming from the woman who uses all her vacation time and calls out sick whenever the latest crisis comes to town.
I never let my job suffer, and school is your job now.
I did all my work. It was just late.
You had a perfect 4.0.
There are things more important than grades.
Exceptional grades open doors for you when you graduate. It was the summa cum laude that got me my first real job. Without that edge, I wouldn't have the position I have today.
A job you hate.
I don't hate it.
I once asked you to say something positive about your job, and you said it was better than a poke in the eye with a sharp stick.
It's how the world works. You'll understand someday.
When I work at a job I hate,
You make money so you can do the things that you want. And you vote to make the world the way you want. If you put flour on your hands, it won't stick so much.
Mag sprays her hands with cooking spray.
That works too.
Graham and I sprayed our hands with cooking spray when we made Rice Krispie treats. My idea. She said it was genius.
Stand up for what you think is right, and the message gets out there. Graham used to say that.
Did she vote for that Mike guy too?
No. But we went to the polls together. She was more excited than I was. We came home and we made this bread.
Celebration bread. Like birthdays and stuff?
Read.
Felicia hands Mag the recipe.
Go ahead, read there.
18th of August, 1920, Margaret Brown. That's today. They wrote this recipe 100 years ago today.
Mhm.
The hour has struck. Remember always, my Ruthie. What does that mean?
Margaret Brown was my great-grandmother. That was the date the 19th Amendment was ratified, giving women the right to vote. She and her daughter, Ruthie, my grandmother, made this bread that day.
A little flour, a little salt, and a little water. Like courage, tenacity, and hope. And dreams will rise into truth.
Can you imagine what it must have been like for them? After all those frustrating years, knowing they were finally going to vote in November?
Must have been exciting for them.
Is that all you have to say?
What?
Well, women fought for generations to get the right to vote. They were beaten in the streets, beaten by their husbands, because a law made by men allowed that, jailed, shamed, but they didn't stop. And all you have to say is,
This touching mother-daughter moment has been brought to you by Wikipedia.
you enjoy freedoms that women before you fought for and died for. And you can't be bothered to spend 5 minutes of your life.
I don't even know what we're talking about.
We're talking about this critical election.
When did we start talking about the election?
About voting, the recipe, being proud of your family. My great-grandmother held secret meetings in her home to educate her neighbors about how men were deciding what jobs women could have and where women could go, how children should be educated, what women could do.
I've heard about that my entire life, except for the bread.
I was saving it for the first time you voted. But we won't be voting together.
Even if I weren't at school, we'd still be doing absentee.
You're not voting, are you? I failed.
It's always about you. You're incapable of listening. You stand there with your motor running, waiting for me to take a breath so you can contradict me. You don't give me credit to think for myself.
We have to beat the Republican platform.
Are the Democrats any better? Medicare, Social Security, income tax, cost of prescription drugs, old people stuff. What about climate change? Real action for BLM.
Student interest rates.
I don't give a damn about student interest rates if we're all going to be dead in 20 years. I have to choose between two old white men. Neither of them understands me, represents me.
With a woman as vice president, a BIPOC woman.
A woman as number two, never number one. 100 years later, and all we get to do is pull a lever.
We almost got Hilary.
She wouldn't have represented me.
As a woman.
As a white woman. She didn't know what I need any more than you do. We live in this white suburban bubble, and the real world is somewhere out there. This last year has shown me how much I've missed, filled holes that I didn't even know that I had.
We're a mixed race family.
I'm Black. You and Dad are white. Adopting me doesn't change who we are.
Adopting you changed everything.
Is that why you adopted me? To be one of your projects? Look how cool I am. I adopted a Black kid.
I wanted a child. I didn't care what you looked like.
To give a poor, unwanted child a home.
There were hundreds of couples who would have loved to bring you into their home. I adopted you for purely selfish reasons. To have a child to love and care for. I almost ripped the face off someone who told me you were lucky we adopted you. I told them that we were the lucky ones. Being away from you, not seeing you except on FaceTime, it's been the hardest thing I've had to do since burying Graham. I'm not a perfect mom. Maybe not even a good mom. But no one could love you more. I read every book. I made sure that you had African-American adults in your life. We read authors your school didn't cover. I thought that if I did all that, you'd be prepared to face the world.
The only thing that prepares you for the world is the world.
And in the last few months, I've been examining myself and wondering how I could have done better for you. Like when that book I read to you about a little squirrel who was afraid that the other squirrels did not like her because she was different.
She wanted to pick flowers instead of nuts.
Tried to pick nuts like the other squirrels, but she really didn't like them. So she decided to do what she wanted and found out that the other squirrels liked her anyway.
You wrote, "Dear Mag, always be yourself," on the inside cover of the book.
You remember.
I loved it.
I thought it was the perfect message. Until about 2 weeks ago, it hit me. Loving yourself is a good message, but nowhere in that book does it say that some of the other squirrels might not like you. And it's their problem, not yours. I should have told you that. I should have told you that the police might not always be your friend, that people will judge you without cause, ignore you, minimize you, fear you. Just, I wanted your life to be happy and safe.
Safe isn't always an option.
I know. I think you've needed that dough enough.
You probably thought replacing your "Love is Love" sign out front with "Black Lives Matter" was a dangerous thing to do.
I didn't replace it. I moved it to a less prominent position.
By all means, put the current cool issue in the prominent position. Maybe a neighbor will cut you off at the grocery store or lob an egg at the front door.
I battle criticism on every day. Have you seen my Twitter account? Half of the family won't talk to me.
Low risk.
What do you want me to do? Get arrested? Go to jail and lose my job? Get COVID and die? Give it to your father with his sleep apnea? The bread is going to be tough.
You always do that. Stop taking things out of my hands when I'm doing them the way you want.
I didn't take anything out of your hands.
Your hands were twitching.
You're overreacting.
This is why we should never do anything together.
I'm doing what I can. I'm not a hero like your great-great-grandmother.
Mag snatches the recipe.
My great-grandmother? This is your family story. Their blood runs through your veins. I'm adopted, remember?
My family is your family.
It doesn't work that way. I love you and Dad and Gram, but my history is different than yours.
I give you this recipe as a legacy to be proud of.
This is white bread made by white women to celebrate when they've won the fight to vote. But what about the women whose blood runs through my veins? Were my ancestors, my Black ancestors, invited to the secret meetings in your great-grandmother's house? Or were they making the tea sandwiches and starching the napkins? They marched, that they even got to march at all, at the back of the line. Did they even get to vote 100 years ago? Was your great-grandma fighting and protesting for my great-grandma's right to vote? No, she was inside baking bread and making memories. Her work was done.
It was a different world, a different time.
You know the world still sees me differently than it sees you.
Felicia reaches to touch or hug Mag. In avoiding Felicia, Mag accidentally tears the recipe in half.
I'm sorry. I know that recipe was important to you.
You are important to me. I thought if we loved you enough, your dad, Graham, and I, that it would be enough.
I'll try to tape it.
I don't care about a damn piece of paper. We should have had talks, hundreds of talks, instead of focusing on your grades and political causes. I should have focused on you. But I didn't want the light to go out of your eyes, to make you feel like you are flawed or less than anyone else, to lose your confidence. Please forgive me.
The things I've been doing, I deliver food and household products to people at home, work with an organization to bail people out of jail, give water to protesters. If you're going to lecture me about the risk that I'm taking,
I can work comp time so we can go away over your holiday break. Nothing fancy, but an Airbnb cabin or off season at the beach. We can play board games and watch movies.
And celebrate the election. Maybe Biden will get in and step down, and Kamala Harris will be our president.
Hold that thought.
If they don't win,
We can commiserate together.
plan our move to Canada. No, we'll stay here and fight.
I'm proud that you put your beliefs into actions.
I am my mother's daughter.
And I'm mine.
This dough smells delicious.
It will be extra special with all your nuts.
Meg holds up the 2 pieces of paper of the recipe.
A little flour, a little salt, and a little water.
Like courage, tenacity, and hope.
And dreams will rise into truth. Do you believe that?
I want to.
So do I. I hope someday I'll have a child to make our family bread with.
End of play.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us for Celebration Bread. We're going to take a brief 5-minute break before we move on to Mrs. Satan and the Nasty Woman by Alice Eve Cohen. So if you'll stick around for a moment, take a water break, take a bathroom break, and then there will be time for applause and Q&A for both of the pieces after the show. So please stick around. Thank you. Hi, everyone. Welcome back from our brief break. We are now going to move on to present Mrs. Satan and the Nasty Woman by Alice Eve Cohen. Please stick around for a Q&A after, where you will get to speak to both playwrights and all of the actors and directors and everything involved. So we hope you enjoy this next piece.
Thank you. Mrs. Satan and the Nasty Woman, a one-act play by Alice Eve Cohen. Setting: Ludlow Street Jail, Lower East Side of Manhattan. Election eve and day, November 1872 and 2016, and other times. In the small cell are two rusted metal cots, each with a tattered blanket, a small stool, a water basin, and a wooden crate that serves as a writing desk. A barred window allows light, air, and street noise to enter. We can see out the window, which is above street level. We might see things passing by outside, perhaps actual things, perhaps projections. This is Ludlow Street Jail, the women's section. For Victoria, the audience members are inmates in the other prison cells. Act 1. In darkness, we hear an angry crowd chanting, "Lock her up, lock her up, lock her up." It's late afternoon, the day before Election Day, November 1872. Cellmate is asleep on cot, completely covered by the blanket, softly snoring. Hazy sunshine pours through a barred window. It's cold out. It might be snowing. Victoria grabs the jail bars.
Let me out. I'm running for president and I need to be out there campaigning. I'll fight for your right for minimum wage, an 8-hour workday, a free education for your children. God damn it.
Victoria paces to let off steam, notices her sleeping cellmate, ignores her.
Guard, do you know who I am? My fellow prisoners do.
Victoria addresses specific audience members as inmates.
Thank you, ladies. I'm humbled and grateful. It is some consolation to be recognized. I appreciate your Victoria for President button. Your husband is a union man. Ah, a communard. And you're here for
Victoria responds to prisoners calling out to her.
debt, debt, prostitution, debt, tax evasion. Hey, I'm in debt too. True, I made $700,000 on Wall Street. Now I have nothing. But that's why I'm here.
Victoria responds to inmate's question.
It was a trumped up obscenity charge. My article on free love ran in the last issue of my newspaper, the Woodhall and Claflin's Weekly. My enemies want to destroy my campaign, so they had me arrested for the obscure infraction of sending obscenity through the mail. The police arrested me, trashed the office, destroyed the presses, but I managed to rescue this.
Victoria reaches into the bodice of her dress, takes out small notebook and pencil she's hidden there.
It sucks to be in jail the day before the election.
The church bell rings 8 times. Victoria sits down, starts writing furiously. Hilary wakes, sits up, groggy and disoriented. She's wearing a pale blue pantsuit.
Who are you?
Victoria.
Victoria. I'm Hilary. Have we met?
No,
What day is it?
November 4th.
November. Jesus! Tomorrow is election day. I'm running for president.
Me too.
Oh, fuck! I'm having a dream again.
Hilary lies back down, falls asleep, snores. Victoria pulls blanket over Hilary, tucks her in, continues writing. A little later, Victoria is still writing. Church bell rings 3 times. Hilary wakes groggily.
Ugh, what day is it?
November 5th, 3 a.m.
Oh my God! I have to get up, get to Chappaqua vote.
Hilary looks at her reflection in the window.
And then right back to the city for the victory party. God, why did I stay out so late? You look familiar.
We met last night.
Ah, right. Shit, it's that same stupid dream. Can never get out of it. Okay, whatever. Remind me, what's your name?
Victoria Woodhull,
And you are
your cellmate.
sell what? What? What the? Let me out! I'm running for president.
So am I.
Woodhull, can't place the name.
That's because Susan and Elizabeth wrote me out of the history books.
Huh?
Even though I'm the first woman to run for president.
I'm the first. I mean,
Susan was once my greatest advocate
first to be
until
nominated by a major party.
I had the audacity to run for president.
Audacity. I've had that word thrown at me too.
The audacity of a woman running for president.
Audacity is an insult for a woman. For a man, it's high praise.
Truth.
Victoria Woodhull. Should I know you?
Yes. Yes, you should. That's why I'm writing my life stories. It's the only way I'll be able to be remembered since Susan B. Anthony and Elizabeth Cady Stanton left me out of their 6-volume history of American suffrage. Not so much as even a footnote.
Victoria flips through her notebook, finds page she's looking for, hands it to Hilary.
This chapter will bring you up to speed. It's about my very first speaking event. I want to hear it out loud. Would you read the part of Susan B. Anthony?
Sure.
Hilary puts her glasses on, reads script to herself, transforms into Susan B. Anthony. Glasses low on her nose, bent posture. Victoria waits anxiously.
Welcome to the 3rd annual convention of the National Women's Suffrage Association, January 11, 1871. History was made this morning by this young woman. A year ago, I'd heard that 2 women had rented an office on Wall Street to open the first female brokerage firm. Like thousands of others, I went out of curiosity. I found Victoria and her sister full of energy and intellect. I asked how they stood on suffrage. They said, just wait till we're established in our business and we'll show you what we will do for the rights of our sex. I didn't see them again until today. And what is the result? I give you the new leader of our right for suffrage. In this age of rapid thought and action, of telegraphs and railways, the old stagecoach won't do. We owe the advancement of our cause to the voice of the next generation. So put your hands together and give it up for Victoria Woodhull.
Susan applauds, invites audience to applaud.
It is an honor to be here. Today I made a presentation to the House Judicial Committee. I argued that women already have the right to vote. I said the 14th Amendment states that all persons born or naturalized in the United States are citizens. Thus, I explained to all the congressmen, since women are persons and all persons are citizens, it follows that all women are born or naturalized in the United States are citizens. Furthermore, the 15th Amendment says that the right of citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged on account of race, color, or previous condition of servitude. Simply stated, women are citizens, and the right of citizens to vote shall not be denied.
We hear a crowd of women cheering. Susan cheers. Then Hilary drops character.
Wait a second. What year is this?
1872.
You're running against Ulysses S. Grant? And your running mate is...
Frederick Douglass.
Whoa! Frederick Douglass? Wow! You're running for president before women had the right to vote.
Yep.
That's remarkable. Crazy. That someone would run before they could even vote is amazing. Amazing. You don't play by the rules, do you? Well, women can't, can we? But you're so young. A girl.
I'm not a girl.
And girl, you are audacious. Insane, but remarkable. Of course, you lost. Whereas I...
What's insane is that you're just now running for president in 2016. A century after women won the right to vote. It's crazy that you're the first female president candidate of a major party. A century and a half after I am. What is wrong with America?
I know. Wait, what? How do you know that
I'm clairvoyant.
Very funny.
How do you think you got here?
You're in my dream.
You're in my clairvoyance session.
Do you know the outcome of my election?
It's pretty obvious.
Tell me. I don't like surprises. Come on, I hate not knowing, even if it's obvious. I mean, well, all the polls, except for the LA Times, which is a little worrisome. But please tell me.
I don't know if I should.
I refuse to wake up until I get a prediction from you.
We hear a mob gathering outside the window. The mob chants, "Lock her up."
Okay. Hilary, the outcome.
Lock her up. Lock her up. Hilary looks out window.
No. I'm not ready to wake up yet.
She jumps into bed, pulls blanket over her, falls asleep. Chance segues to 1872 street sounds. A little later, Victoria sits and writes, speaking aloud what she writes. Hilary sleeps. Church bell rings 4 times. Hilary wakes, sits up, disoriented.
I am a promiscuous, free lover, and I want the love of you all.
Insomnia is killing me.
It makes no difference to me who or what you are,
Barely slept in the last 24 hours.
old or young, black or white,
Hey, wake up!
pagan, Jew or Christian.
Come on, Hilary! Hello, excuse me. Where am I?
Cell number 4, Little O Street Jail, women's section, Lower East Side, Manhattan.
Victoria resumes writing.
I want to love you
Hey, is it-
all. It's Tuesday, November 5th, election day, 4 a.m.
That explains the anxiety dream.
While Victoria writes, Hilary slaps her cheeks to wake herself up. Victoria writes aloud with increasing passion.
I want to love you all and be loved by you all, to love for as long or short a period as I want, to change that love every day if I please. To women belongs the right of sexual determination.
Remind me, Victoria, you're with the Green Party?
Green?
Working Families Party?
The Equal Rights Party.
I never heard of it.
Our platform is equal rights for women and children, whites and blacks, and all who are oppressed.
Hours.
Government support for the poor, the working poor and the unemployed.
2.
Advancement of education for the young people.
We want the same things. Why you third-party candidates run against me when the stakes are so high?
To end the tyranny of income disparity and expose corporate corruption.
Our platform is identical. Let's join forces. A position on my White House staff?
I believe in prison reform.
Same.
Abolish the death penalty.
Well, the death penalty is a tricky question. I don't want to completely abolish it.
Marriage reform and marriage equality. Emancipation of women starts with marriage.
Check.
I support free love. The freedom for people to marry, divorce, and bear children without government interference.
Absolutely.
The freedom to love whoever you want.
Yes.
Whoever you want, however you want, whenever you want, with as many lovers as you want.
Yeah, but I've been burnt by scandal, blamed for my husband's scandal, so I scrupulously avoid any appearance of sexual impropriety.
I don't.
If this were a musical,
It's not.
he's
So.
singing a song about how different and alike we are.
We need a complete revolution.
Complete revolution? How's that working out for you? You need to scaffold carefully, one victory at a time, build support with moderation.
Careful moderation. And how's that working out for you, Hilary? You play within the system. I reject the system.
You sound like Bernie.
Bernie sounds like me. But I said it 150 years before he did. There's no system for women to be in. I say screw the system. Why aren't you more like Bernie?
Because I want to be president. A socialist will never get elected. I'm a pragmatist.
Hilary realizes she's in a jail, shakes the bars.
Let me out. Let me out of here. I had to vote for myself. God, so meta. I love it. Oh, I'll drive to Chappaqua, cast my vote, have my oatmeal and coffee, then drive back to the city for the election returns. Woohoo! I'm about to shatter the glass ceiling. It's the most humbling feeling to be the first woman presidential nominee of a major party. I know how much responsibility goes with this.
I'm a beacon of light to my constituents, unions, communists, free love advocates.
The whole country is counting on this election and what it means for women.
Thousands of my followers come to hear me in town hall and the Cooper Union, standing room only. I'm fighting for the things that matter to the middle class, to...
So am I. You feel empowered, but you have no experience in public service. Young women like you don't realize that it's because of feminists of my generation that you have the advantages you enjoy today.
Who do you think you're talking to?
When I was your age, a woman wasn't even allowed to have a credit card in her name.
What's a credit card?
A tyrannical demagogue is right outside that window. He must be stopped. I have to win. Losing is not an option. You third-party candidates are frivolous and irresponsible and dangerous.
The two-party system is overrated.
And I'm worried the outcome is virtually assured.
True. Ulysses S. Grant will win re-election, even though everyone knows he's a corrupt bastard. I advocate for radical political action, and I refuse to be affiliated with either the financially corrupt Republican Party or the Democratic Party, which is indelibly linked to the South and slavery. That's why I created the Equal Rights Party.
What year is this?
1872.
Hilary gets very drowsy, stumbles to cot, half asleep, lies down.
I need more sleep. Will you tell me a story about you?
Victoria lies down next to Hilary under one blanket, like they're having a slumber party.
My father was a traveling salesman.
Mine too.
What did he sell?
Fabrics, upholstery. Your dad?
Snake oil.
Snake? No, seriously, what did he sell?
Snake oil.
Snake oil.
I mean, he used it for his elixirs and medicines. Well, it was guaranteed to remedy goiter, influenza, stomach, heart, and liver complications. It cures cancer within 24 hours.
Your daddy was an old-timey con artist.
Yep.
Why did anybody believe him?
When you're hurting, you believe anything you want to hear. If a con man promises to make your shitty life better, you buy the snake oil and you drink every drop.
Hilary looks out the window.
In our tiny town of Homer, Ohio, with 10 children and an insane wife, PA's only income was the next scheme he cooked up. My pa, until he realized that my sister and I had the gift.
Gift?
Clairvoyance.
Ah.
Pa took it with us on the road. Victoria and Tenny, clairvoyance and spiritualist healers, consolation free and $1. He hired us out to communicate with dead spirits and gaze into the future and heal wounds and find lost items, sort out domestic disputes.
What a scam.
Excuse me? I mean, my father was a fraud, but my sister and I were the real deal. I moved to New York City because voices instructed me to open a trading firm on Wall Street.
Yeah, right. And when I was a student at Wellesley, voices in my head told me, ooh, Hilary, don't stay home and bake cookies, run for president.
How do you think you're here with me?
You're in my dream.
You're in my clairvoyance session. I summoned you.
Okay, let's agree to disagree.
They cuddle and fall asleep together. A little later, church bell chimes 5 times. Hilary, eyes closed, tries to hit non-existent snooze button. In distance, mob chants, lock her up.
One more hour. Ugh, where's that snooze button?
Hilary opens her eyes. The mob gets closer. Lock her up. Lock her up.
Fuck, it's the same dream.
Chant gets louder. Hilary pulls the blanket over her head, but Victoria wrestles the blanket off and pulls Hilary up. They stand side by side and look out window as Mom approaches, chanting, lock her up. Lock her up.
The press called me the devil.
The press called me Mrs. Satan.
He called me a nasty woman.
They called me vile jailbird.
He called me crooked Hilary.
They called me a salacious prostitute.
The chant gets louder.
I was running a child sex ring out of a pizza parlor in Washington.
Wait, what? No way.
Way.
Whoa, that is some crazy shit.
I know.
The church bell rings 6 times. Sun is rising on election day. The mob is right outside. It's scarier. You might see their banners and signs are actual news footage. We hear Trump's voice making violent statements. The mob roars and jeers. Victoria and Hilary look out the window, holding each other. Sound of glass crashing, like a wall of glass is being violently destroyed.
I have to get out of here before he destroys the whole world. It's time. I'm ready to wake up. Victoria, tell me your prediction.
Victoria whispers in Hilary's ear. Hilary smiles. Hilary exits. Sound of cell doors slamming shut. Act 2, the next night. Amplified sound of jail door slamming and key turning in lock. Hilary enters jail cell in a rage, stands over sleeping Victoria. Victoria wakes up, smiles, surprised and happy to see Hilary. Hilary slaps Victoria's face hard, shocking and hurting her.
Ouch! What the?
Hilary attacks Victoria, tries to choke her. They fight hard, wrestling and punching.
Why did you tell me that I'd win?
Because the polls! Everyone thought that you'd win!
They stop fighting. Hilary stares at Victoria.
You're a shitty clairvoyant.
It's not a perfect science.
Then why did you predict the election?
You said you wouldn't wake up until I did, and I thought that, I hoped, I believed that it was exactly the right time. I was sure that it was.
So was I.
It had to be. I knew I couldn't win. I'm too young. I'm 33, and the president has to be at least 34. I'm ahead of my time. But this is your time, Hilary. Finally, a century and a half after I ran. Jesus Christ, you lost. You lost? I mean, it was yours to win, and you lost.
Are you blaming me?
I blame the whole goddamn system. The FBI director who screwed you over, and the Russians, and the con artist tyrant, and those voters who are hurting so bad. They buy this goddamn snake oil, and it's not your fault. Yes, it is. I mean, it's partly your fault. You weren't completely awake. Why didn't you come back?
Needed to get away. It's horrible out there. Armageddon. Figured nobody would find me here.
Victoria massages Hilary's tight shoulders.
You could use a good cry.
I don't cry anymore. My tear ducts have atrophied after all those years of pretending to be invincible. I had to prove to the public that I am not ruled by emotions.
Well, you don't have to pretend with me. I missed you.
Really thought I'd win?
Of course I did. Everyone did.
Hilary sobs. Exactly 3 sobs. Real sobs, but no tears.
I'm not ready to face the world. I'll stay here a while, nurse my wounds, get strong, figure out my next move.
Susan visited me in jail after the election. I wrote a chapter about it.
Victoria hands Hilary the notebook.
Can you read the role of
Susan? Sure. One advantage of dreaming, I memorize the lines instantly.
Hilary scans pages, transforms into Susan, sits on a stool, elated. Victoria shivers, wrapped in a blanket, mistrustful. Outside, it's snowing.
I voted.
How did that work out for you?
It was a thrill of my life. I had to force my way in to register. I read the 14th and 15th amendments to the registrars to make my case. I learned that trick from you, Victoria.
You're welcome.
When I finally voted, it was my dream come true. And as you probably heard,
We don't really hear much in jail.
well, after the election, I was arrested for civil disobedience. I've enlisted an attorney, and I predict that United States versus Susan B. Anthony 1873 will be a landmark case that will win suffrage for women in a year. 2 years tops.
It'll take another 50 years.
Shut up, shut up, shut up, shut up! That kind of talk erodes solidarity. I've advised you about this time and time again, Victoria, but you don't listen. You're a liability to the movement.
Who did you vote for?
I voted for Grant.
Of course you did. Of course. Why would you vote for that goddamn corrupt bastard? You could have voted for me.
You went too far when you ran for president. I told you to stick to suffrage.
If you don't fight for radical systemic change,
You got off topic
you'll never see suffrage in your lifetime.
and you made it all about you. I wanted my vote to count, so I...
But it didn't count. Your vote wasn't counted. It was your vote was a revolutionary act in the fight for women's suffrage, right? So how, Susan, how could you vote against a woman?
Hilary breaks character, slams the notebook on the desk.
I can't believe that Susan voted against you. After all you did for the... Didn't she call you the new leader of the suffrage movement?
She wrote me off when I declared my candidacy.
Why? Why do women silence powerful women?
For their audacity and for trying to move the pendulum.
How can a woman vote for a man who hates women? He grabs women by the pussy, whether they want it or not. Sure, I'll vote for him. Why?
Yeah. Why?
Hilary, suddenly drowsy, gets under the covers and falls asleep. Time passes. One church bell. It's snowing hard in the middle of the night. It's cold. Hilary's dream. Hilary, under the blanket, mutters incomprehensibly. Victoria sits at desk, writing in her notebook by candlelight. The pencil point breaks. Victoria jabs desk with pencil, goes berserk.
Fuck. 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 Fuck.
Victoria, in a rage, tries to sharpen the pencil with her teeth. Hilary sits up, groggy, asleep. This dream is bizarre and illogical, like most dreams.
Who are you?
Stop fucking asking me that. You know who I am. I'm your cellmate, Victoria Woodhull. Do you remember my name, for God's sake? I'm for free love. How can I campaign in my notebook if my notebook is my motherfucking vote?
Victoria continues chewing the pencil. She spits out pieces of wood. Hilary sleepwalks. Through the scene, she bumps into furniture, bumps into Victoria, who pushes her away. Hilary tries to get out, tries to walk through the jail bars, tries to climb out the window. In the far distance, we hear a protest march. As the scene continues, it gets closer.
Love me. Love my cellmate.
Love me. Love my cellmate.
How can I vote if my pencil is broken?
Victoria sharpens pencil with her teeth, spits out pieces of wood.
Where are we?
Ludlow Street Jail, election day. Fuck the system.
Fuck it.
There must be total revolution.
Total.
Victoria grabs Hilary's shoulder, shakes her.
Then wake up!
I'm awake.
The fuck you are.
Victoria pushes Hilary toward the cot, makes her look down.
That's you. Look.
Hilary looks down at the empty cot, sees herself.
You're right. That's me. I'm still asleep before I woke up from this nightmare.
Hilary lies down and pulls the blanket up.
Remind me, who are you?
Oh, why doesn't anyone remember me? I'm fucking Victoria Woodhull. You're Hillary goddamn Clinton. And you're sleepwalking.
Where am I?
They locked you up.
Who did?
They all did. The whole country.
What day is it?
Election day, 1872.
What day is it?
How many times do I have to tell you? It's election day, 2016. And it's a fucking nightmare. Why are we screaming? We should all be screaming.
Hilary screams while Victoria, in a quiet rage, writes with her newly sharpened pencil. Hilary stops screaming and falls asleep in the cot, cries out with night terrors, tosses and turns, screams, whimpers, shudders, mumbles incoherent sounds. Victoria goes to the cot, nurses sleeping Hilary, wipes sweat from her brow, wipes snot from her nose, as if she's her child, whom she loves, but who has disappointed her. When Hilary finally sleeps quietly, Victoria gets under the covers with her and sleeps. One church bell rings. Victoria begins to cry softly in her sleep. The sound wakes Hilary, who puts her hand on Victoria's shoulder and gently wakes her.
What's wrong? Victoria? Why are you crying?
I miss my daughter.
Victoria softly cries. Hilary does not. Hilary massages Victoria's shoulders and strokes her back for a while.
I miss my daughter too.
They go to sleep, holding each other. Time passes. Sound of the protest march gets closer. Church bells. Hilary and Victoria wake up. It's a freakishly hot and sunny day, January day. The Women's March is now right outside the window. We hear protest chants from the huge crowd. We see iconic protest signs and banners from the Women's March passing by outside the window. Victoria and Hilary stand at the window, wave, and cheer. Hilary takes iPhone from her pocket, watches live video coverage of the 2017 Women's March on Washington. Hilary is glued to her iPhone. Victoria looks out the window, fans herself with notebook. We hear audio of the march from Hilary's iPhone. We hear the protesters from outside the window.
They say it's the biggest protest in our country's history.
It's the hottest January on record.
They're saying 500,000 in DC.
A huge crowd here.
Sister marches all over the country, all over the world.
A sea of pink.
They look out the window together.
Hand-knitted pink pussy hats. Nice. But where were you on election day? You assumed I was about to be president, didn't you? Some of you didn't even bother to vote. Half of the voters, 230 million eligible voters, didn't vote. Look,
What?
the banner over the stage. Women's rights are human rights and human rights are women's rights. That's plagiarism.
Yeah, it's from my speech at the Cooper Union last month.
No, I said it. It's a quote from my speech on women's rights in Beijing, 1995.
I said it first.
Hilary goes back to her iPhone.
The fuck? I'm not on the list
The list?
of honorees. How could they not honor me? The march organizers came up with a list of 27 women who paved the way for us to march.
You should be on that list.
I should be the fucking headliner. Jeez. Half their signs and t-shirts say nasty woman. They've even appropriated nasty woman from me. I earned that. They're erasing me from history.
I know what that feels like.
Shh. Gloria Steinman is about to make a speech.
Carrie Chapman Catt is about to make a speech. The 19th Amendment has just been ratified.
What did you...
Shh.
2017 cheers mixed with 1920 crowd cheers. From the iPhone, barely audible, we hear a crowd. Hilary is glued to the iPhone.
Gloria will honor me. Come on, Gloria.
From outside window, not quite audible, we hear Carrie Chapman Catt's 1920 speech at rally, celebrating passage of the 19th Amendment. Crowd cheers her. Victoria is glued to the window.
Wait, what? Bernie is focusing on economic justice and I'm still alive? Gloria just said, and now Hilary is alive and definitely not in jail.
Victoria watches from window. Hilary watches her iPhone.
Gloria attributed the quote to me, but that's it. Really? That's it?
Carrie Chapman Catt didn't mention me. Of course she didn't.
After all I've been through, everything I've done, that's all I get?
You came so close, Hilary. You almost...
Fuck, almost.
But don't let them forget that you came closer than anyone before you.
Maybe I'll write a book.
That's why I'm writing mine.
They want me to disappear.
Of course they do.
I write a book, they'll attack me.
So what? Your book will outlive you.
Oh. Oh. I guess you're right.
Hilary realizes she's mortal, feels old. Shoulders sag. She allows herself to look older, considers her mortality, her legacy. Hilary and Victoria look out the window, where the cheers continue. They link arms.
There's so much energy in that crowd. How do you keep the resistance going when progress is so slow?
You keep going back to zero.
Someone in 1872 has to teach it to someone in 2017.
I know.
We try to change the world
But the rug is pulled out from under us every time.
because we're women.
It takes a lot of practice to not cry.
The cheers from the crowd fade out. They lean on each other affectionately.
Victoria, what does free love mean to you?
Sex is sublime and spiritual.
Amen.
Everyone should have a right to love whoever they want. And you should have intercourse as much as you want with whoever you want, as long as it's consensual.
Does that include gay rights?
What?
Same-sex marriage?
You mean like sex night after night after night?
No. I mean, men loving men, women loving women.
Love is love is love is love is love.
They gaze at each other, then impulsively embrace. They make out passionately for a while. It's nice. Very, very nice. Sensual. Then they slowly separate, look at each other.
I guess I'm not gay.
That was really nice.
Time passes. Victoria looks out the window. Hilary stares at her iPhone, scrolls through news headlines. She's in shock, angry.
It's a horror show. He's blaming the Muslims. He's taking away health care. He's making a fortune from the presidency. He incited a crowd of Boy Scouts to boo a former president.
What kind of a president does that?
Right?
What's so funny?
It's about your running mate. Frederick Douglass is somebody who's done an amazing job and is being recognized more and more, I noticed.
From a distance, lock her up. Lock her up. Gradually gets closer, louder. Hilary grabs iPhone. It won't turn on.
Damn it. Battery.
Give it to me.
But it's dead.
I communicate with the dead, remember?
Ah.
She hands Victoria the iPhone. Victoria scrolls through headlines. Outside, the mob gets louder. Lock her up. Continues.
Jesus. He's standing up for white supremacists and Nazis. They're separating immigrant children from their parents and he's closing the borders?
Ruining our country.
We need a total revolution.
Total revolution. I'm in. Teach me to be more like you. Radicalize me. I've spent my whole life towing the goddamn line. I want to elect the first woman president. Teach me, Victoria. Teach me how to be fearless and wild and revolutionary.
They take hands, close their eyes. They both concentrate intensely. Victoria tries to use her clairvoyance to radicalize Hilary. Hilary desperately wants it to work. They spin each other around, faster and faster. Lock her up chant is now right outside the window. Victoria sits up, not quite awake. She's having a clairvoyance session.
The first Muslim woman and the first Native American woman are about to be elected to Congress. For the first time in history, there will be more than 100 women in the House of Representatives. God damn it. Why only 100 women and more than 300 men?
I'm having the same dream.
They go back to sleep. Time passes. A long time. Longer than all the previous time passing. No church bells. They are awakened by a celebration. They get up, look out the window, watch side by side, cheers and joyful music. Victoria and Hilary experience a maelstrom of emotion, including happiness, but that's only part of it. It includes every other feeling they may possibly have after being locked up all this time.
It's the largest crowd to ever attend a presidential inauguration.
I can't believe it took so long.
I know.
Hilary cries quietly. She's crying genuinely. It's the first time she's cried in years. She cries for a while. Victoria puts her arm around Hilary's shoulder. Hilary wipes away her tears. They watch, listen. It gets louder, louder. Music might include women's voices in an unrecognizable language. The music might be ecstatic and joyful. It might also be angry and dangerous.
She did it.
And we're finally getting out.
They take a step downstage. Music and cheers get incredibly loud. Together, with all their might, Hilary and Victoria push the cell wall. It finally falls with a deafening crash. They step over the wall and exit. End of play.
Thank you everyone for joining. I'm going to let Marissa take over for the Q&A, but just so everyone knows, I'm going to be promoting you all to panelists so that you can put in on your video and ask questions visually. It's going to look like you're bounced out of the Zoom, but it's going to bring you right back in. So bear with us for a moment while everyone gets put into panelist mode. And at that time, we'll do an applause. And Marissa, I'll let you take it from there.
Thank you so much. Awesome. So just because we're freshly in Mrs. Satan and the Nasty Woman, I'd like to pose the first question and also a little bit of commentary and historical facts for you. So I'd just like to say this is very inspiring and also just extremely haunting, of course. And I mean, history is really repeating itself, as we can even just tell in the title. But I also just recently learned after listening to a new podcast called Very Presidential, which I highly recommend everybody listen to. I recently learned about our 28th president, Woodrow Wilson, and I learned that his second wife, Edith Wilson, was technically acting as president while he suffered from a stroke in 1919. So sort of technically, she was kind of the first female president, which is really cool. But of course, you know, we didn't technically vote her into office, but that will come one day. So I suppose my question that I'd like to pose to our actors and to our director and to our writer and just our team, really, if you could give one piece of advice to a little girl who is inevitably going to say, I want to be the first female president, what would it be?
Go for it. Do it.
I mean, yeah, I would say go balls to the wall. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what else I would say except for hell yeah.
Don't look back. Don't think about the past, because we can't change the past, even though we can in this play. Don't keep going forward and look forward.
I'd probably say develop a strong sense of self, and all of your dreams will follow that if you're not basing your entire self on your career or getting the presidency or all those things. I think anybody that really knows who they are and knows what they stand for, all the rest is noise.
Oh, I think you're muted.
I'd say be sure to vote and don't take it for granted. And I'd tell the parents of that little girl to involve that child in conversations about politics and ethics from the earliest age possible.
Awesome. Great advice. Wonderful. So I'd like to just remind everybody that we can see your questions in the chat. So feel free to write some questions or some commentary. I will happily read either one. And feel free to ask questions about either play, not necessarily just the one. And while we're waiting for some questions on that, I would just like to introduce myself because for some reason I always forget to do that. My name is Marissa Fowler. I'm the artistic intern for the Philadelphia Women's Theater Festival. I'm so grateful to be here with all of you. So, okay, so I'm not seeing any questions yet. So I suppose I will go into my question about our other play. My other question about Celebration Bread is the topic of encouraging the newest generation to vote is a difficult one, especially when there doesn't seem to be much hope in sight, or they say that their one vote won't be of any help. If you could say, and this is to anyone, if you could say one thing to a newly 18-year-old American, what would it be?
I'd probably apologize because this is not the world I wish we were handing them. I mean, that's just honesty.
Yeah.
But that even if it doesn't go the way they vote at this time, then I need them to vote again when they're 22 and again when they're 26 and again to keep doing that. Because I imagine there's some fall off in between if you don't necessarily get the results you need or want. It's easy to think, what does this matter?
I guess I would also try to lay out some facts and statistics as to how much their vote does matter. I don't know. I think people have the idea that it's like, I think a lot of times, a lot of us feel helpless, like, oh, what does my voice even matter? It's not going to make a difference. And it always does. It always, always, always does. And I mean, there's so many people that, not so many, but there's people in my life that I know who just didn't vote. And that, like, if you just multiply that by how many people who didn't vote, by how many people who didn't vote, by how many people didn't vote, it's like, well, yeah, it really does actually make a humongous difference. And so just somehow there, you can say like, oh, you matter, but if you can really give concrete evidence, I think that's always really helpful too. At least because that's how I respond. If I'm like, I want concrete evidence before I can make, a decision, I feel like that's also helpful.
Great, thank you. So we have a couple questions already in the chat. So we have one question asking, of course, the question of assuming this person assumes that these plays were originally conceived to be performed live on stage. I personally really enjoyed the Zoom setting, but that's just me. But I mean, I think that they work either way, but both of them were technically written for the stage. Is that correct?
Yes, my play was written for the stage, and I'm sure that Julie's was as well. And like every playwright I know, I'm so grateful to be able to hear my work aloud during this time. And so I'm tremendously grateful to the Philadelphia Women's Theater Festival and to the existence of this platform, because I thought it was really exciting and beautiful to hear the work aloud. For my play, I actually thought seeing the two women in the same space kind of enhanced the idea of Hilary being in Victoria's clairvoyance session and Victoria being in Hilary's dream. It seemed to make that kind of mysterious, what is the reality of the world that they're coexisting in, even more rich for me. So I I thought it worked really well on Zoom. I was very grateful for it. And with Julie's play, I loved seeing the mother and daughter side by side. And again, it kind of, as an audience member, it supported their togetherness and their kind of existential separation as well. I think we watch a play on Zoom and we try to make meaning however we can. And there are opportunities in a Zoom reading for it to become transformed in ways that are surprising and fun.
I'd like to echo what Alice said. It was a great opportunity to be able to be here and to have such a wonderful director and cast. It was just great. When I imagined this play, A Celebration Bread, obviously I imagined them making bread. Nicole will tell you, and they actually tell you, I included, step by step how to make this happen if that's what the director wanted to do. But I did kind of imagine in a live setting that there would be dough flying and all sorts of things that would make it super fun too. So certainly this works. The question is this how it was imagined? No, but that's what you have when you have a brilliant director and actors who can make these things still work.
Yeah, we have lots of details on how to make Julie's bread. Anyone's stay tuned for when this gets staged someday. Full details to follow.
Wonderful, wonderful. Next question. Were the events in Alice's play all factual? For an example, the Susan B. Anthony endorsement.
The Susan B. Anthony endorsement is 99% historical text. She really did introduce her at that women's conference, and she introduced her as the next leader of the suffrage movement. And I barely changed the quote from Susan B. Anthony. Most of the historical details about Victoria Woodhull in the play are accurate. She did indeed have, she named, or her party named Frederick Douglass as her running mate. However, Frederick Douglass didn't acknowledge it. So it's true that he was on the ticket with her. I saw the text of a campaign song that named both of them. So she did run for president in 1872. She was the very first woman to speak to Congress. She fought for suffrage almost 50 years before the 19th Amendment was passed. So she was, and indeed, Susan B. Anthony, who supported her and put her on a kind of a pedestal when she was young and maybe more easy to manipulate. When she ran for president, she dropped her like a hot potato and literally wrote her out of the history books. She wrote this 6-volume work of the history of women's suffrage and literally did not give Victoria Woodhull as much as a footnote in it. And I think that's one of the reasons very, very few people have heard of Victoria Woodhull.
Our next question is also for you, Alice. What do you feel makes this play timely today? And what do you hope, as far as discussions, your work might create?
Wow, well, I actually would love to share this question with Kelly and Michelle, because they both responded in such a personal way at the rehearsal yesterday. So if it's okay with you, I'd love it if Kelly and Michelle could perhaps mention some of the things they did yesterday about what they think makes it seem timely.
Are you about to start, Michelle?
No, you go ahead because you were unmuted.
Oh, okay. It all just feels so I mean, relatable always, but right now, especially with our current, election coming up and who's involved, and, although it's not going to be a president, we have the opportunity to see the first female vice president, and that's huge and exciting. Obviously mixed feelings about all the things all the time, and we don't have to get into those, details, but it's when you speak these words, you're not, you're empathizing with this woman and Victoria, and like learning so much about her. It was just like, holy crap, how do I not know who this woman is? And it makes me feel like, what? Like, and not only do you empathize with her, but like you're empathizing with every single female identifying person who feels, all the feels that this play has, brings up. I mean, it really, very quickly, without even reading it. We read through it together, not too long ago, and it was felt very emotional. It felt very, very emotional and very like on the nose and extremely relatable.
Yes, yeah, I felt the same way. I felt really connected to it emotionally as well, because so there's Victoria in jail, and nobody remembers her, and Hilary is like the nobody, right? And she doesn't remember her. And then a little while later, Hilary realizes how that whole machine happens, how you get erased from history. And I could sense her her despair in that. And there was a lot of despair, and I just loved the dream part near the end where it gets all discombobulated and you don't know what time it is, because I feel like right now, well, here we are in this time of quarantine, who knows what day it is, let alone what time it is, what era it is, what even's going to happen tomorrow. It's so all of those elements in the play kind of predicted. Your play predicted. It's really a powerful. I think it's really great. I can't wait to see it again.
And in terms of, thank you for those thoughtful comments, and in terms of what kind of conversations I hope will happen, I think it is important to talk about the systemic sexism in politics and in our country, and how so much time has passed. And while we're celebrating the centennial of women's suffrage, to remember it took so many years to accomplish that, and we cannot take it for granted, because the right to vote is still in danger of being sabotaged in this, the most important election of our lives that's about to come. So I do, of course, hope that it makes people think about the role of in politics, and how this entrenched sexism has been for the entire history of the country, and continues to be an obstacle that we need to fight to overcome.
Our next question is for you, Alice. How did you hear about Victoria Woodhull?
So in January 2017, 2 months after the devastating presidential election, I was depressed at home, and I got a call from an old friend who's the artistic director of the Kitchen Theater in Ithaca, and she said, Alice, could we commission you to write a play for our upcoming festival on the centennial of women's suffrage in New York State? New York State suffrage, women had the right to vote in 1917. So I said, yes, absolutely. And I kind of shook me out of my depression, but I still, I didn't know what to write about. So I started reading a book that my then high school daughter loaned me on the history of the women's movements. And in a little sidebar on the chapter on women's suffrage, I found just like a 3-sentence sidebar about Victoria Woodhull. And it said, first woman to run for president, 1872. She was locked up, she was arrested and thrown in jail the night before the election. And I was at that moment literally overhearing NPR on in the background, and I heard a one of the Trump rallies and the chanting of lock her up, lock her up. And I had a kind of a light bulb moment where I thought, okay, Victoria Woodhull thrown in jail the night before the election, and Hillary Clinton wakes up in jail with Victoria Woodhull. And that in the moment, I knew that that was how the play was going to begin. Didn't know what would happen after that, but I knew that was going to be the premise of the play.
Our next question is for Julie. How did the process of revising your play for Zoom and the summer's fight for racial justice shape it?
Well, when I first wrote this, the first version of this play is very different, much stronger, I think, very, very different than the first version that I wrote last October for this festival. And the play was inspired by two things. One, by the festival itself. When the call came out, I did not have a suffrage play and said, oh, this would be great. And I started to think about what I should write about. And I have here one of the diaries I have from my great-grandmother, Clarkson Hoodless Porter. And I have her entry in here on November 2nd, 1920, the first time she voted, which I don't have a recipe, but I have this. And those are the two initial inspirations. So I wrote this, play about mother and daughter and so forth. And it was all very nice and neat. It wasn't very punchy to me. And then we went into this little thing called a pandemic, where the play that I wrote, where the daughter was going to college, is now going to be home because it was written for the particular day in August, which who knew what it was going to look like? Well, now it went into a pandemic. And then we went into the protests and all these things, and the play was not going to work. It just did not work anymore because that's not the vision of what the world was going to be like. So I contacted one of my mentors, Quinn Eli, and said, help. I said, you don't have to read my play, but I need to talk to you about it. I need help. I don't know. I've written myself into a corner and I don't know how to make this work. And he was awesome. And we talked through it and different potentials of how we could make this play stronger. And then I also talked to my good friend and playwright friend, Kenya Jackson, and we talked some more about it. And there were other people too, many other people, I'm so grateful, but the two of them most of all. And that really, really shaped as we went forward, and I dug deeper and deeper. I've adopted my two sons are mixed race, and I adopted two. I dug into that. There was a book that I read to them, and it struck me at one point, I had the same revelation. It struck me at one point as, oh, I thought the story in here was a fantastic story about, being yourself and being happy. But I also realized that that just wasn't enough. So the play took a journey as I took a journey, and it's turned out to be very, very personal to me. Thank you for asking, and again, thank you to the team for making this happen.
Well, since we're applauding, we may as well pause our questions and commentary for a round of applause, of course.
Yay! A great lineup. Thank you so much, everyone.
And to change it up a little bit, I'll read some commentary that we have here from Polly, our wonderful artistic director. Great work to all artists involved. It's a wild time for theater, but you all and your talent, grit, determination are the reasons we continue on in these new artistic times. Very true. And then another one is Loved every minute of these wonderful plays. Thank you so much to all for sharing your artistry. And next one is no question, just an expression of gratitude to all the artists who made this virtual theater experience possible. I miss seeing live theater, and this is the next best thing, perhaps the new normal. I hope to see more live theater like this. Thanks to Michelle Pauls for inviting me and my friends. And a congratulations to all the artists involved in tonight's production, both on and off the screen. A thank you to Philadelphia Women's Theater Festival for making this happen. And my last commentary, and then I'll go back to questions. The way that the two women in Alice's play is also relevant to the first play with the daughter who needs to be convinced that her vote counts. The women's movement has a history of neglecting BIPOC women. And now.
Neglected by what?
By people of color.
Black women, she said.
No, BIPOC.
Can we mute our mics if we're not speaking, please?
Oh, yeah. That's me.
Thank you for explaining BIPOC, though. So next question is, let me find it. Oh my goodness, so much love. Can Michelle talk about the challenge of playing 3 characters across 2 plays?
Oh yeah! Wow, what a great opportunity. So putting them together was really interesting tonight because I saw so many, like while I was reading Julie's play, I thought, oh, I see the connection to Alice's play while that was happening. And Julie even had my characters saying the word Hilary. But beyond that, there were so many interconnections. And I have an 18-year-old daughter who I've had disagreements with, not about voting, but other things. So that was really, I don't know. Anyway, beyond that. And then as far as this Susan B. Anthony part, what helped me, I think, is I also play Lucretia Mott for the Historic Philadelphia Inc. And we actually just started up again after being shut down by the COVID. And so I did a lot of research on suffrages and some Susan B. Anthony, although I never had heard about Victoria Woodhull in all of my research. So that was really interesting. I think I love challenge, and it was so great to play with these 2 ladies, female people, Kelly and Sharese. They were so awesome. And Nicole, wherever you are, there you are. So great. These plays are so great. I'm so glad I got to do them and people got to hear them. Thank you.
And now, I'm not seeing any more questions, but feel free to think on it if you have 1 or 2 more. So I'll read some commentary.
I have a question for Julie.
Oh, yeah.
Is this a real recipe that you have, or did you make it up, or what? Tell about the recipe.
The recipe, well, it's a basic bread recipe. And, when we went in, and I like making bread, but I hadn't made it for a while. But when we went into pandemic lockdown, I started baking bread again. And I was really enjoying doing that. So it's basic. I don't think I have measurements in what I gave you, but it was more for using on the stage. I have to tell you, I was actually inspired by that. From a year ago, I had a show in the Fringe Festival, and in it I had in a restaurant and some sisters, because I love writing mothers, daughters, sisters, love that, love all that. And there was a part where they were talking about guacamole, and they actually the director had them make the guacamole on stage, and it was so It was so much fun to see that. And I never would have thought about that, but I went right back and changed the version of that to say, oh, and you can actually make the guacamole on stage. So having seen that done on stage, I thought how much fun to do bread on stage too.
Now this is the moment for final questions. You can speak up, you can write in the chat. All right, I've given the moment. So thank you all so much for joining us tonight. We hope to see you next week for another evening of One Acts, part 2. That will be Thursday, also at 8 p.m., featuring Loans by Megan Schumacher and Walk the Line by Eng Bay. And then on September 24th, In Defense of Ourselves by Nikki Break-Zia. And that will be Thursday, also at 8 p.m.
Sorry, Marissa, really quickly, just wanted to, you're the best, and we did not talk about this beforehand. Ange Bay wrote Walk the Line, and Megan Schumacher wrote Lounds, which is what we will be premiering next week. Sorry about that. Hope to see everybody there.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks, Kristen. All right. Thank you all so much for being here with us tonight. Be well, stay safe.
Thank you.
Thank you.